suddenly brought to life when I met you. Reaching beyond the skies, running deep, stretching wide. Perfect love realized here with you. Come on now. Now this love is for real. You will never let go, never let go. Oh, and it's more than just words. Love beyond my control, out of control. Hands up. This is real love. This is real love. Sing, this is real love. This is real love. Oh. Come on and say, you're pulling me closer and closer, holding my heart till the very end. Jesus, I'm found in your freedom. This is real love. This is real love. In your heart, I am found. I want you. I want you. You won't let me down. You got me. You got me. No time is for real. You will never let go. Never let go. Oh, and it's more than just words. Love beyond my control. Out of control. You're pulling me closer and closer, holding my heart till the very end. Jesus, I'm found in your freedom. This is real love. This is real love. Oh. Come on, y'all. You're pulling me closer and closer, holding my heart till the very end. Jesus, I'm found in your freedom. So this is real love. This is real love. Oh. Staring into your eyes makes my heart come alive. Suddenly brought to life when I met you. 1, 2, 3, jump! This is real love. This is real love. This is real love. This is real love. Oh. One more time, we say, you're pulling me closer and closer, holding my heart till the very end. Jesus, I'm found in your freedom. This is real love. This is real love. This is real love.
Good evening, everyone. Again, we're back at our virtual youth class. Tonight we'll have the cross behind me as the backdrop, because of the title of the lesson is "Love is lifted me higher and higher," and to me that's Jesus is the answer to all love. But to get to this point of love, I'm going to introduce myself and give you a little information about love. And then we get into the story. And the story's going to be out of the book of Ruth, the first chapter, 1 through 22. And here's your Bible, my Bible. Where's your Bible? So I've got mine. Do you have yours? I want to say that it is sort of hard for me to get started tonight. For some reason, I had a hard time coming up with the beginning of the lesson and the ending for the lesson. So I was sitting in the living room this evening and I was praying, and the song Love Lifted Me, because the name of the title of this lesson is Love Lifted Me Higher. I felt like the Lord's telling me that in place of a regular prayer, He wanted to hear us lift our voices in praise and because of love. So I'm going to ask you, I know I'm not going to sing the verse, just the chorus. I know you older people or the older youth probably knows the verse because of growing up with the old Red Book songs. And I know it's going to be a backdrop, back different from what we just went through on the timer. It's totally different time. I mean, it's an older song. So I'm going to ask us, everyone to close their eyes like you're at church and just imagine you're in the class or in church and you're going to pray. And I ask you to lift your hands up in prayer with this song. And as we sing it, love lifted me, love lifted me, when nothing else could help, love lifted me. Thank you. I don't know about you, but that is a powerful song when you're talking about love. My name is Marsha, and like I said, I am one of the youth class teachers from Faith Family Church of God. We are taking turns. This is my turn, and like I said, the topic's going to be love. And I have heard so many people, especially the young people, say, "How do you know when you are in love?" You've seen these shows, these sitcoms, these movies, and like Love at First Sight. You see them over here, Romeo and Juliet. You say, "Oh, love at first sight." I don't think that happens very often. I know when I met my husband, that did not happen at all. So we're going to see, how do you get to this love, and when I get through that, and it's body. It's not just a mind thing, okay? I did research, and it's very interesting. I know we have several nurses or doctors out there that knows about the body and the makeup of the body. Well, it is very important to know that love is not just an emotion, and it really is the one word, the one thing that the world really needs more of. That old song, "What the world needs more is love." What that old song. So we're going to talk about love, how it comes about in our body, in the sense of our mind and our heart are connected. So I want to show you something. This is a necklace, very important to me. And I'm wearing my Valentine's blouse, and I'm wearing the Valentine's necklace because love is usually associated with Valentine's. Well, of course, this is not Valentine's Day, okay? But due to the fact that it is love, I want to emphasize the importance of the heart when it comes to love. And the heart does not work by itself. It works with your brain, the brain works with your heart, and it works with your blood. So here we go. There are four types. There are four types of love. We've got the spousal love. That is in 1 Corinthians 7, 8 through 9. That's where, like, I love my husband. We have family love, found in Romans 12, 10. That is your brothers, your sisters, your children, your grandchildren. You have your brotherly love, which is your friends. In John, that's scripture verse of John 13:35. And then the best one of all, like I said, is they call it the agape love, and that is the highest of the four, and that is God's love. John 3:16. Let me remind y'all now, a few months ago, probably a little over a year ago, we did lessons on love, romantic love stories in the Bible. We did Ruth and Boaz. We did Abraham and Sarah. We did Mary and Joseph. We did Adam and Eve. We did Isaac and Rebekah. We did Jacob, Rachel, and Leah. And we did Samson and Delilah. So we had several love stories that we went through in the Bible a little over a year ago. So tonight should be a little refresher course while I'm talking about Ruth, but it's going to be a little bit different than what we talked about in class. So let's refresh our memory on what we've talked about in the past. So now we're going to get to how might be good to know how God created love in our body and the different types of love. And that's what I just told you. The two body organs that, well, actually three counting the blood, is your brain and your heart. It is important. Emotional love is the heart and the brain. The blood is the liquid that flows through our bodies. It connects our brain with our heart. And everything has a purpose. Okay, we have the heart, we have the brain, but do you know, we know that the brain has its functions and what the function is of the heart. We know, the kidneys and the liver and all the different parts, what they're for. But do you realize that every part of our body has a purpose? And our fingertips, our teeth, our nose, our cartridge on our nose, even our earlobes. Look them up. If you Google it, God really gave us a powerful tool when He allowed somebody to come up with the internet and Google all that, because depending on how you use it, it is a whole lot faster than trying to go to the library and do research. Because the internet I could go. I have a question about what's in the Bible. I'll say, okay, I want a verse about why am I overweight, or why is my hair this color, or why this, why that. And I can actually put my question on the web search line, the browser, and it will give me a verse for every question that I ask, and it's amazing. So if you have a question, I wonder why my there's hair on my arm. Look it up. Look it up. They'll tell you what that hair on your arm is for. God gave us a body part for everything. Everything has a reason. And that's the reason why I still don't believe such thing as the Big Bang Theory, unless, like Pastor Little said, God went bang and it was there. But I don't believe that, because like it says in the Bible, He could have done that, but He didn't. He wanted to enjoy His creation. So like I said, everything that our body consists of is for a reason. And tonight I'm talking about the heart and the brain and the blood, and it all comes to love with these body parts, okay? So, now we're going to go see what the heart looks like. Okay, we're all used to the little heart that we made in elementary school on Valentine's. We'd make them for our parents or grandparents, put them in a little bag, have a good time, have a Valentine party and everything, and get really carried away about Valentine's. Like I said, this necklace right here is shaped like one of these hearts. But do you know that, and I know you do because you're older, you should know because of school and everything, our heart does not look like that. That is a fantasy. That is a fake heart. This is a real heart. It's a little bit different from what we're used to seeing when you're cutting them out for Valentine's Day or you're buying Valentine's cards. But this body part, this heart, see how it's pumping? We know that it has to pump to get blood all through our body. Excuse me. So I looked up how is the heart related to love? Well, how in the world did anybody come up with the idea that this heart would be used on Valentine's to be associated with love? And so I looked it up, and it said the heart has a mind of its own. Okay? It has a mind of its own, and the brain has a mind of its own, because they both have neurons. They connect with each other, but they both have a reason. They have their own mind of what they're going to do. The heart pumps the blood to the brain. The brain tells the body, the blood circulates all through the body. I am not a physicist. I am not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm trying to relate what I have read in the Bible to get it through. How does love come out of these hearts? The heart and the brain. The first Valentine's Day love heart originated in the 1400s. It's speculated that it was possibly designed from a now extinct plant called the silphium, which was used for cough medicine contraceptives. I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to talk about the fake heart. I want to talk about the real heart. Research has proven that our heart has a mind of its own. It has always been a symbol of love and romance. Just like our brain has neurons that control our emotions, our heart has neurons also that controls our emotions. The heart and the brain are connected. Grief and anger affect the heart. The heart is relatively small in size. Okay, this is a picture of what the size of our heart is. Now, how, like I said, we're going to figure out how the heart and the brain brings about love. And we're going to get into the story of Ruth because, like I said, all this is important to know because when you fall in love, you're going to say, is this real or not? You know, is my heart talking to me? Is my brain talking to me? The heart is roughly the size of a large fist, like that's showing up there. And it weighs less than 1 pound, according to Henry Gray's Anatomy of the Human Body. So when we say I love you with all my heart, it is meaningful. But look at the difference of this real heart and the fake heart. The real heart size is, you can tell, it's ugly, but it means so much. I mean, that's where your life comes from. The fake one looks a whole lot better than the real one, but the word here is fake. Fake love versus true love. If you want to learn more very interesting facts about the human heart, do some research because what I learned in this lesson about the heart really taught me something new. We all say, sometime or another, I love you. I love you more. I think I've heard Pastor talking about his sister Brenda like that. They'll go get on the phone. My husband and I did that on late at night. I love you more. Click, you know. So it was something meaningful to us. I love this or I love that. Sometimes it seems like the word love is misunderstood because people's bad about misusing it. They'll tell you they love you just to get something they want really bad. And that's where your discernment comes in. Does this person really love me? Or do I really love them? Now, like I said a while ago, when I met my husband, it was not love at first sight. It took a lot of time. Took a lot of time for that love. So there is a difference in how you feel about a person, and it goes back to your heart and your brain and God. God picks those people. He picks the person for you. Okay? When that person comes along, you may say, this can't be right. You know, we just do not connect. But eventually, if you get to know them, like I said, I didn't like my husband. Needless to say, my mother didn't like my husband. We got married, and she didn't even talk to him for several months. I mean, she did not like him. But he grew on everybody. He's got the personality, but I love him, and I've always loved him after those first few months. But anyway, you have a chemical attraction to them. When you first notice someone that you're attracted to, the chemicals in your body gets to work within seconds. These chemicals are released into the bloodstream and pumped throughout the body by your heart. Falling in love triggers the fight or flight reaction in the body. This triggers the heart to beat faster. Yeah, that's true. It does. It makes your heart beat faster. You can feel it pumping. In a way, when you're attracted to someone, this reaction diverts blood to the essential organs like your heart and away from others like your stomach. It explains why falling in love can make you lose your appetite. One released chemical is the stress hormone, so when it releases into your bloodstream, it can also make you feel weak at the knees. I've heard people say that. I feel weak at my knees. I feel sick to my stomach. That's how much they love somebody. Your blood pressure. When you love, the effect of being in love and relationship, and your blood pressure actually lowers and normalizes your readings. It says that you should not be isolated. Healthy togetherness is good for your heart. So all this is love, reaction for love. You know, you got to be together. You cannot be alone. You get alone, you get depressed, you get stressed, and your heart rate goes up. That may be why some people have heart attacks like they do, because they're lonely. It's a broken heart wanting to be with other people. Now, that was the heart. So now we're going to talk about the brain for a minute. Here are 8 things that love does to the human brain. There's a picture of the brain. falling in love causes a major hormone rush. Love can be an addiction. Love activates the opioid system. It's romantic love. Love can make your serotonin take a nosedive. Research has associated romantic love with low serotonin levels. Love can zap your focus. You can't think of anyone but the person you love. I mean, whenever Robert and I were dating, everything, it got to where we were engaged. It got to where we couldn't be apart. I mean, we wanted to be with each other all the time. Love can strengthen your ability to process emotions. Different stages of love can change your brain activity differently. Love can get in your brain and stay there for life. A 2011 study found similar activity in certain brain regions among long-time, happily married couples and among couples who had recently fallen in love. The researchers suggest that these brain regions might provide clues as to how some couples stay deeply in love for decades or forever. The bottom line, they say, love can last forever. The meaning of love. I know, I realize all you know what a noun, verb, and adjective are. You're getting some biology, you're getting some English, So now we're going to talk about the noun, the verb, and the adjective love. Well, I think we talked about this in our class about romantic stories of the Bible. The noun for love is the story she wrote is full of love. Verb, we love the pie she baked for us. The adjective, I told a love story about the sweet couple. The word love is mentioned 310 times in the King James Version, 131 times in the Old Testament, and 179 times in the New Testament. Depending on the version Bible you read, love is mentioned more in other Bibles than the King James Version. I just prefer and trust the King James Version. Now, we're going to get into our scripture about Ruth, about her love. Now, we've talked about Ruth and Boaz, but tonight it's going to be a little bit different. We studied about her and Boaz and how they met and they married. Boaz loved Ruth very much, even though he was 80 years old and she was 40. This is a beautiful love story. Every time everybody talks about a love story in the Bible, first one that seems to pop up is about Ruth and Boaz. However, what about Naomi? We're going to talk about the love that Ruth had for Naomi, her mother-in-law. So go ahead and open your Bibles and begin the book of Ruth, and we're going to read from chapter 1, 1 through 22. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to dwell in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, the name of his wife was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were from Bethlehem, Judah, and they went to the country of Moab and remained there. Then Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. Now they took wives of the women of Moab. The name of the name was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth, and they dwelt there about 10 years. Then both Mahlon and Chilion also died, so the woman survived her 2 sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughter-in-law that she might return from the country of Moab. For she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord had visited his people by giving them bread. Therefore she went out from the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her. And they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. And Naomi said to her 2 daughter-in-laws, Go, return each to your mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each in the house of her husband. So she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said to her, Surely we will return with you to your people. But Naomi said, Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there still sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn back, my daughters. Go, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, if I should have a husband tonight, and should also bear sons, Would you wait for them till they were grown? Would you restrain yourselves from having husbands? No, my daughters, for it grieves me very much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. Then they lifted up their voices and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. And she said, Look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law. But Ruth said, Entreat me not to leave you, or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and I will be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me. When she saw that she was determined to go with her, she stopped speaking to her. Now the two of them went until they came to Bethlehem, and it happened, when they had come to Bethlehem, that all the city was excited because of them. And the women said, Is this Naomi? But she said to them, Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord has brought me home again empty. Why do you call me Naomi, since the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has afflicted me? So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab. Now they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of barley harvest. Okay. I'm going to do a short summary of what I just read. Due to the famine in Bethlehem, they were Naomi and Ruth and Orpah and her husband, their husbands, and Naomi, their family. Okay. Naomi's husband died, and it left Naomi with her two sons and two daughter-in-laws. Well, 10 years later, her sons died, and she became very bitter. She became very bitter. Her name, Naomi, means pleasant. But after the death, she became very bitter, and she not only became bitter, she blamed God for all of her troubles. She was so bitter that she actually changed her name to Mara, which means bitter. She was so bitter that her physical appearance didn't look the same. She was almost unrecognizable. This was after when she went back to Judah, went back to Bethlehem. Naomi had heard that the Lord had provided food for his people in her homeland, so she decided to return home in Bethlehem. Her two daughters-in-law were traveling with her from Moab to Bethlehem. However, she told them both to go back to their mother's homes because she had nothing to give them. She said, May the Lord show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husband and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will rest in the home of another husband. She then kissed them goodbye. They were so upset about separating and leaving that they cried. They even told her that they would go back to her people with her. All right, well, her daughter-in-laws loved her very much. They were going to go with her. They were going to leave their families in Moab. They were going to leave their own mothers and their families and go with her to Bethlehem, to Judah. Well, she didn't want them to. We discussed this in the class, when we were the Boaz and Ruth lesson. She didn't want them to go with her. At least she didn't act like it. I mean, she was so upset. Have you ever been so upset that you didn't want anybody around you? I mean, she was very bitter. And when you say bitter, that means, I guess, grumpy, sad. Nothing was ever right. She just felt really bitter, and like a lot of people do, she blamed God for all of it. That he afflicted her. He took her sons, he took her husband, and she was just bitter to God, her God. Because remember, Ruth and Orpah, they did not worship her God. So this was a totally different thing for them. So she convinced Orpah. They kissed Orpah, and she went home. And they stood there and watched her when she went home. Ruth would refuse. Not only did she refuse, she clung to Naomi, and she promised her. She promised her with all her heart, with all her love, that she was going to stay with her, no matter where she went. she was, like I said, Naomi was verbally blaming God for her bitterness because she felt God had turned against her. Ruth refused to, so determined that she actually made a promise to Naomi by telling her not to push her away to go back home nor to leave her. She said wherever Naomi went, that she would also go, that Naomi's people would become her people. Where Naomi died, that she will also die and be buried. She even said, may the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. In the book of Ruth, Naomi received loyal love from Ruth, who tells her, where you go, I will go. Once they get into Israel, the love story of Ruth and Boaz starts. When Naomi realized that there was no way to change Ruth's mind, she stopped nagging Ruth to leave and let her stay with her. Now remember, in the scripture it said she quit talking to them. She quit. She said that saw that Ruth would not leave. She just quit talking. Now I don't know if that means the whole time or what, but it says that she quit talking. Now Robert's put up a map of the journey that Ruth and Naomi took to get back to Bethlehem. Here's the map. Look how they had to walk around the Dead Sea. It was a 7 to 10 day journey from Moab to the town of Bethlehem. It was only between 30 to 50 miles, but it was dry, it was dusty, it was treacherous terrain, and it seemed to mirror what was in Naomi's heart. It was a dangerous journey for two women to take. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is one of the saltiest bodies of water. It has no living creatures. It is the lowest elevation and lowest body of water on Earth. It is 50 miles long, 11 miles wide, 1,000 feet deep. During the winter, the temperature gets down to 55 degrees. And during the summer, it's 90 degrees. So I decided to look to see when did they make this journey. And according to what the scripture said, it was the beginning of barley harvest. And barley harvest is in March. So it wasn't a cold time that they went. It was more warm. So it wasn't like they were going to be walking through any cold weather going around the Dead Sea to get back to Bethlehem. It was a treacherous terrain for them. The book of Ruth is an amazing and awesome love story that occurs between Boaz and Ruth. And we're going to, like I said, remember, that's where the story is. The book of Ruth is actually about Ruth and Boaz. But remember, Ruth didn't know Boaz. She had been married. She loved her mother-in-law. And according to what I read on, into the chapter, into the book, she didn't have the feelings for Boaz like Boaz had for her. A modern-day Ruth is full of love for God and others. Everything she does in love. She chooses to shake off bitterness or offenses because God has called her to an example of His love in a world that needs it. Now, Ruth, like I said, she was not bitter. Naomi was. So, can you imagine what it's like to be staying with somebody? She felt for Naomi. She sympathized with Naomi. Now remember, Ruth lost her husband. She had lost her husband, so she is a widow too. So she could have been bitter, but she wasn't. She loved Naomi, and she was going to stay with her no matter what. Ruth had lost her husband. She lost her father-in-law. So her family, she was part of this family. So she was in mourning also. But she stood firm, and God stayed with them because for them to make it back to Bethlehem through this terrain, and the weather being warm like it was and going around the Dead Sea, that was a long trip by foot. They said it took probably about 7 to 10 days to get back. Ruth became Naomi's strength. Now, Ruth and Oprah were a lot different than the modern-day daughters-in-law. They loved Naomi very much and didn't want to leave her. But Naomi was so insistent that Orpah finally left while Naomi and Ruth watched her. In the Bible, the word pleasant means delightful. Naomi's name meant pleasant, so she was a delightful person up to the time that her family died. Her husband and children died. delightful, lovely, or beautiful. Her family loved her, even both of her daughter-in-laws. The three ladies had been together at least 10 years. That is how long Ruth had been married before her husband died. After the deaths is when Naomi became so bitter. Upon Ruth and Naomi's arrival in Bethlehem, the people didn't even recognize Naomi because she was so bitter and sad. She was so bitter that she told them to call her Myra, which means bitter. So she actually, I mean, she knew she was bitter. She knew she was. It wasn't like she didn't know it. That's why she said it. She said, "Call me bitter. Call me bitter." She was sad. She said, "Call me bitter because God has afflicted me," and she was still blaming God for everything. So let's think a little bit about this. The name Mara. This is also the name of the place where the Israelites left Egypt and came upon it. The water was bitter. So that's where that name came from. Back to Ruth and Love. I can only imagine the bitterness that Ruth felt and dealt with every day. Even if someone doesn't talk to you, I know when I give sometimes I'm a nice person, but sometimes when I get upset and angry at Robert, I'll give him a silent treatment. That doesn't mean that I'm bitter. It just means I'm angry, and I don't want to say anything. But there is a difference between being angry and bitter. So in Naomi's case, she was bitter and she was taking it out on Ruth by not talking to her. Ruth had not done anything really. She had was suffering the same way that Naomi had because she had lost her husband. Um, Naomi was upset with God. Ruth never changed her position about Naomi. She walked with Naomi all the way back to Bethlehem to live with Naomi's family. Ruth's personality and love are what God was using to get Naomi back on the right track. The story about Ruth and Boaz is beautiful. However, Ruth had Naomi before she had Boaz. Due to their closeness, both Ruth and Naomi prospered from God by Ruth marrying a wealthy man named Boaz, and he was kin. He was kin to her father-in-law, her deceased father-in-law. Very good story. You know, he was wealthy. Boaz was wealthy. We love our families, but how much? Remember what I said at the beginning of this lesson about our hearts and brains? They both control our emotions. Ruth's brain and heart connected Ruth to Naomi. Her love for Naomi was never broken. They had the deaths of their husbands in common. Now, we have scriptures of love. You know, Naomi and Ruth, like I said, you know, this is two ladies that loved each other. And the other daughter-in-law, Orpah, she loved him, but she did not cleave to Naomi like Ruth did. Ruth was insistent, and Orpah, she was too, but she made the choice of going home. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if she had not gone back. What if she had actually traveled? I have read, now it's not in the Bible, so I'm just going to say what I read. So it's not biblical. It's just research what they had said in the Chronicles of in Egypt or wherever it is or whatever that is in the journal. Orpah went back and she married, and do you remember the name Goliath? They're saying that Goliath, and she had 4 sons, and Goliath was one of them. So if that's true, you know, like I said, it's not in the Bible, but it's real interesting to think that maybe that's what happened to her. She went back and she did remarry, and it ended up that Goliath was her son, and that's who David, her nephew, great nephew, ended up killing for the Israelites. If that's true, it's very interesting. But like I said, I'm not getting into that because it's actually not in the Bible, but it's just what research on genealogy showed. Okay, 1 Corinthians 13:1. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. Ruth was patient and kind to Naomi. And due to that love and kindness, Naomi accepted her. I think that if we had more of that, that's the reason why the Bible says, you know, love is the greatest of these. If everybody loved like they're supposed to, we wouldn't be having what we're having right now. You wouldn't be seeing all these people beating up on each other, everything being said. If you loved, if everybody loved, it would be a wonderful world. 1 Corinthians 13:13 says, "And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love." Like I said, can you imagine what it would be like if everyone loved everyone, no matter what the situation? Matthew 22:33 through 34 through 40. "Love the Lord with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. We are to love the Lord with all of our being, our brain, and heart has all the love." Mark 12:31. "The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. Love everyone as though it was yourself." John 3:16. "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." Now that's the greatest of love. I was giving y'all the different loves earlier in the lesson, and this is the agape love, the love of God. I want to say a few things about John 3:16. God loved the world so much that he gave his only Son to die for us so we could have eternal life. We all want to be loved. When we think about Jesus dying on the cross, we imagine the blood, we imagine the bruises, the deep cuts in his body, the crown of thorns, the nails in his feet and hands. It is all so disturbing, and some people would now say offensive. You watch the movie, Easter movies. People could say that's offensive now because it's just too much blood. Well, it actually happened. That's true. Jesus had a choice. He could have stopped it whenever he wanted to, and he could have called angels down to release him and kill everyone. But he didn't do that. He hung there in agony and in pain. He could have asked God, he could have asked his Father to at least block all the pain and all the suffering. God could have. He could have made it painless for him, but he didn't. Jesus suffered in pain and agony. Everything that Jesus went through was out of love. How could God love us even before he knew us? Jesus died for those at that time, but also for future generations. He died for me. He died for you. He died for people that he had never even met. He made the choice, free will, to stick with God's plan. Because I imagine if Jesus had said, "Okay, I've had it. I can't take it no more, Father. Um, this is an impossible plan. There's no way." He could have, but he didn't. He went through with it. Jesus didn't even do anything wrong to be crucified. He was perfect in every way. His heart and brain had to have so many emotions swirling around since he was still human. He was human, and he had a heart, he had a brain, he had everything that we've got. So he had free will choice. And that's a hard thing to do, to think that here you are suffering like he was all this time. He had not done anything, and people were um, torturing him, but he suffered. He could have had a stroke. He survived the whole ordeal. He was perfect in his body. He was perfect. He did not. He did everything like God planned. Do you know? This came to my mind earlier, and I was going to write it down. You know, we talk about our bodies. We talked about our bodies a while ago. Talking about our brain and our heart. Our bodies is temple, God's temple. Our bodies is the holy temple. Okay. When we go to church, we do not walk in there with a cigarette because it's God's house. We know not to go. We wouldn't go in there. We wouldn't go in there with a beer, an alcohol. We wouldn't go in there with a cigarette. We wouldn't go in there with anything that we know is not holy. That's the same with our bodies. Now, our bodies, God made our bodies with certain things. Like I said, with our brain, our heart, and the blood, all the different um, chemicals. Everything that we have to survive is in our bodies. If we put something that is not good for them, like smoke a cigarette, they say it causes cancer, it causes lung cancer, all that. If you do put something in your body that is supposed to be God, supposed to be holy, you do not really know what it is destroying because God created us. He did not include a cigarette. He did not include alcohol. All that was something that we choose to do, and it's not right when it affects our bodies. We say, okay, he loved, like for instance, he could have had a stroke. He survived the whole deal without dying before he got to the cross. He showed no anger during the entire time. Remember the time at the garden when Peter cut off the soldier's ear? Jesus healed it. He put it back right before he was arrested. He didn't argue with Pilate during the trial. Being human, he had to be praying the entire time to make it through to when he said, "It is finished." We say, "I love you with all my heart." We're supposed to love God that much. He comes first in our lives. Jesus was the ultimate sacrifice because of true love. In conclusion, remember what I said about the heart and brain being the body organs that regulate love? Think about this Bible verse and how it relates to our heart and mind. I want to end this lesson with a question. What does it mean to love the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength? Love is the most powerful emotion any living creature has, especially man. Now, right there, I want to stop for a second. Um, Deuteronomy 6:4-5. Answer. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. The heart of the soul is the center of our emotions. We feel, like, dislike, express love, hatred, joy, affection, desire, feelings, anger, sadness, and happiness. The soul is the spiritual being, which means the inner part of a person that includes the feelings. I'll show you something. Remember me I showed about this heart? This heart is special to me because it sort of reminds me of the scripture about Ruth and Naomi. This necklace was my mother-in-law's, okay? And she passed away. This heart reminds me of her because she was special to me. We had our times at first, and we got everything straightened out when Robert and I first got married. But we became very close. And when I look at this heart hanging on my with my other necklaces, it reminds me of her. The letters when they lived way up north before we had cell phones and using the phone was expensive, long distance. We wrote letters back and forth all the time. I'd get 2 or 3 letters. I'd send her 2 or 3 letters back and forth. That's how close I was to my mother-in-law. I loved her, and I miss her. I really do. And this heart reminds me of her. And I have a cameo, but this one, she liked this one because it's her Valentine's necklace, her love necklace. The soul, Matthew 22:34-40. Love the Lord with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and the greatest commandment. The mind, Lamentations 3:20 and Proverbs 2:10 is for thinking. It is in this part of the soul that man reasons and has knowledge. That is Lamentations 3:20 and Proverbs 2:10. It says that the mind is for thinking. It is in this part of the soul that man has reasons and he has knowledge. That's the reason why sometimes we'll say, that is so dumb what we're saying. Do they not have logic? Do they not have knowledge? What happened to the common sense that the good Lord gave them? It goes back to what I think. Some people does things to the body to affect their thinking capability. God is the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Man is spirit, soul, and body, which is in 1 Thessalonians 5:23, Hebrews 4:12, Luke 1:46-47. Now, I had a problem with how I was going to end this. That was the lesson for tonight. But my main point with this lesson is love one another. My necklace is a reminder of that. It doesn't just remind me of my mother-in-law, but it reminds me of the love I have for my husband and my family, for you. But get something. The one lesson I had was my crown, talking about how special we are, that we're that a princess or princess to God. Get something that you can visible, like a necklace or something that you think of that reminds you to love one another every day, no matter how angry you get, no matter how upset or how you say, "I'm going to run away. This is ridiculous. I don't like it here anymore. I hate it here." Remember that there is love in your family. Your family, you cannot find love anywhere else higher than your family except through God. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. You'll have a good night. Love you all. Bye.